10 to 20% misuse of people. Otherwise,
but 20%, 10 to 20% is a very high
you see these, when you talk about...
The Jawans are made to babysit, they are washing utensils, they are washing dogs.
I'm sorry, the percentage on this percentage would be...
I think the percentage is much more...
But Brigadier Dhaliwal, if in the Air Force and the Navy, they could do without the serving Jawans working as Sahayaks, why not in the Army?
You see, because once a fighter pilot goes in the fighter, after that he doesn't need any protection of anyone.
But what about the peace area?
When the person is in the civil. Yeah. You see, basically it was for combat. And imagine if you reduce the, let's say, remove the batman, the number of force available for the battalion commander for unit for the war, that was number will get reduced further.
You see, one of the major problems of the man is that he is not being made to do what he has been trained for. He has been trained for a particular job and he is being made to do anything else. Now he does not like it. He is not happy with that.
Absolutely. Let's move forward. Rajiv, in this particular case, though full details are not known, but from media reports it appears that the problem in 16th Cavalry started because the officer committed suicide, and possibly he did this because he was refused leave. So that reflects on poorly on man management, no?
No, I'll say on this aspect, the Jawan today is from an informed community. He is having basic education and he is even having global awareness. It's not a Jawan who knows only his place of deployment and his native place. He knows a lot of things today. Yeah. So he knows his rights also. He knows the act also. He knows the legal provisions also. He knows where things are going wrong and undue, like illegality or unlawfulness or the force which cannot be used is being used on him. So he is reacting to that.
100 suicides by army men every year. Don't you think that's a very, very high number?
Yes, that definitely is a very high number. I read a report that till December 2005, 65,000 from 1987 to 2005, 65,000 soldiers took psychiatric advice from Government Psychiatric Hospital, Srinagar. Now 65,000 is a big number that's been reported. Those who have not gone, those who have latent symptoms, nobody's taken care of them.
That's very disturbing. Kalchima, there is another feeling that present day officers, at least very many of them, are too obsessed with their own lifestyles.
Absolutely.
They are busy playing golf, they're not playing the ball games that they were earlier playing with the Jawans, not attending Bada Khanas the way they ought to attend these. So do you think all this is adding to the kind of gap between the officers and Jawans?
That is the reason behind the entire thing. The officer must get back to the basics. The basics are that he must play the troop games. He does not play hockey, football or volleyball or those games. He plays only golf. And most of the time, you see, due to operational commitments or otherwise, he is not able to spend any time with the troops. He hardly spends any time with the troops. And the other point which I wish to clarify and stress is that in 2002, a corps of combat psychologists was planned. Now, there is definitely a need of, I am not saying a corps is required or whatever, but the psychologist and psychiatrist team is definitely required to look into, are there specially trained people in the battalion or in whatever unit who can counsel the men regularly. I would go a step further, that mentors for the officers. In the peace station it is possible. There are so many retired officers, senior people like Brigadier Dhaliwal, knowledgeable people like him. These
it's a very good point you made. Brigadier Dhaliwal, would you like to react to the earlier point that Colonel Cheema made, that the senior officers, people of your rank or higher, are too busy with their own lifestyles and playing golf and not spending enough time with the officers?
I tend to disagree with him. I wish the senior officers were more busy with golf and all, thinking, writing approach papers, considering what are the problems, instead of getting in day-to-day administration. Whereas the officer himself, who is actually the direct captain major level, he is not getting time, firstly because in the overtraining of these people. They are busy with the
Brigadier Dhaliwal, in most units you don't have very many officers.
That's the problem. So therefore they won't have a contact with the people.
College, there are pamphlets and books and sand models. They have to get all of that.
All of that.
Come to the ground level. Understand
when do they get the time to talk to the men? And another thing is that there are distractions which were not there earlier. There's a TV distraction, there are computer games, there are video games. And the family also now wanting more attention than earlier. So therefore, all those things, just to blame the officer cadre per se, I think will not be correct.
Okay,
all these things should be taken into
Leader
consideration.
Dhaliwal, do you think it's about time to revisit the JCO rank? You know, the JCO rank was supposed to be a bridge between the officers and Jawans in the good old times. Now, in present day times, when the commissioned officer, the junior commissioned officer and the Jawan come from the same stock of society, do you need that kind of a bridge or an intermediary rank like the JCO's rank anymore in the army?
Firstly, I want to remove this myth of JCO being a bridge between the officers and Jawans. During British time also,
He was meant to be.
He was there commanding a platoon. He is not a bridge. He was commanding a platoon. Today also he is commanding a platoon. If you are already short of officers, where will you get the officers to replace the JCOs? That's number one. Two, why JCOs are not effective? Because you are not trusting them, you are not giving them responsibility. I'll illustrate this with an example. I was commanding a unit in Mizoram. There were various posts, and one post the army commander decided to visit. So they told me, send me the biodata of the post commander. So Subedar so and so. So how can a JCO be briefing the army commander, put an officer? I said, why? The JCO knows everything. He will brief. No, put an officer. I told the brigade commander, if the things go wrong when officer is there, you will be responsible. And if the JCO is there, I will be responsible. The army commander, I met when he visited my headquarters, he commended the JCO that he was so good. So problem is that we are wanting everything to be done by only officers who are very short in number. We don't trust our JCOs, we don't give them responsibilities.
So you're saying that instead of doing away with the JCO rank, we need to give them greater responsibility.
Responsibility
Shima,
training.
would you agree with that, or do you think we need a more homogeneous rank structure, like possibly in the United States?
I suppose JCOs need to carry on, but the junior leaders like JCOs, special kind of training for
Training
them.
is required.
They have not been trained properly. They have not been given responsibility to take on certain things. If you give them the responsibility and if you train the junior leaders, there is one thing which I wish to share with you. You see, what happens is that a Raj Jawan or a new JCO, new promotee, or even a new lieutenant captain, whenever there is an operation, there is an emergency. And these people, without having served in any unit, Kargil is an excellent or very bad example. I mean, all the young boys who were killed there, they were absolutely raw. They had no experience of combat whatsoever. And Jawans were, Jawans also went like this. Right from the training centers, they were pushed, and of course they were killed. So this is another thing that we have to.
That may have happened because it was a difficult operation, and a lot many JCOs may not have volunteered.
Yeah.
No, there is no volunteering required. Why should a patrol of 6 be led by an officer? The ratio of casualty you see, because
and the type of task which you have at the hand. It may be a very important
task
task.
was very not very important task that you need an
Don't
officer.
you send the
They just wanted to find out.
officers as scouts? Don't you send the officers as scouts, 2 of them?
That's right. Rajiv, what is the sense that you get from the kind of army cases that come before you, which you kind of fight in the Armed Forces Tribunal? Has the JCO rank kind of lost its utility?
Yes, it has. I'll say because I'll find the reason here also. It is the participation in the decision making. We say a platoon, a section, JCOs matter here. Now decisions are taken at the company commander level, at the unit commander level. These are imposed on them. There is no articulation of interest. There is no aggregation of interest in decision making that comes from them. So JCO comes into figure. You will find in most of the cases they come into figure only when there is fixation of responsibility, when something goes wrong, except they are not in picture. They themselves find themselves unutilized. Only in fixation of responsibility they are very happy to only complete the paper formalities. I have done my job, it's over.
I don't think I agree with them.
Brigadier Dhaliwal, what I wanted to say was that the rank structure has been degraded, devalued terribly. Now a company is commanded by a lieutenant colonel, as you know, that there are companies which are commanded by lieutenant colonel, colonel the CEO. Now similarly, coming down to the JCO level or the Havaldar level, the authority and responsibility which go together, which is given to the JCO.
That's right. Since we are running out of time, last word from each one of you.
I wanted to actually react first to Rajiv this thing,
yes.
that to say that they are only coming into picture when the responsibility is to fix. No, there is a procedure. If there is an emergency, you can't have discussions. But otherwise, whenever any decisions are taken which are affecting the men, our JCOs are
Brigadier
consulted.
Dhaliwal, maybe things have changed since you retired, no?
No, I don't think so. Actually things have improved.
Things have improved, okay. But tell me, if such incidents, the kind of incident happened in Leh, the kind of incident which has happened in Samba, if they are to be prevented, what should be done, Brigadier Dhaliwal?
I feel that people, when they come to peace, they should be given adequate time to settle down. Training events should be reduced so that people can have time with their families. The importance, the main point, Jawan has stopped respecting the officer that much is because he knows his say in the civil is nix. The civil department does not react to any officer when he sends a grievance report of a Jawan to the. When I was a second lieutenant, I sent a report, immediate reaction came, a very heavy reaction from police. Today, nobody bothers.
So
therefore the Jawan
needs to be far more responsive. Yeah. Colonel Dhaliwal, Colonel Cheema, what do you think, how do we prevent such incidents in
the
future?
Immediate remedial measure, the Fawri Ilaj as they call it, that is that RMO of the unit, the religious teacher, few more people within the battalion or the unit specially trained for this kind of purpose, and the mentors, as I said. All these people have to be specially trained to look into, and of course the CO or the commanding officer has to keep his eyes and ears open. He must be on the ground, he must be back to the basics.
Rajiv, how should such incidents be prevented?
I'll say there are 4 key concentration areas where we need to work. One is the Jawans are continuously working in hostile areas. They have continued threat of their life, which they see the counter-insurgency areas, not to speak of army, but the other paramilitary forces. They are from one difficult area to another difficult area. Rest is lack of recreational facilities, which they need to have more and more. And lastly, the homesickness. It needs to be curbed by having a system of their regular leave, meeting the family, addressing their grievances at the domestic front also. When any of these things is not happening,
so a lot needs to be done.
Yes,
since we are run out of time, thank you very much for joining us in the discussion. Since incidents of a standoff between officers and Jawans are on the increase in the army, there is an urgent need for remedial steps. Not only should the officers reach out and mingle with the Jawans more often, the rank structure which builds exclusivity should be changed to bring in greater inclusivity and homogeneity in the rank and file. That is all in Defence Line today. Do write your feedback. Good luck and goodbye.